Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Prime Sports World. And we are only like 25 hours from the start of the first round of the NFL draft in 2020. And if you're looking for consistent content on Facebook, Twitter, and on the YouTube, Prime Sports World, pretty good place to hang out. We go live 6 or 7 times a week, including tomorrow. We're going to be live for the entire first round, breaking down every single pick as it happens live. So continue checking us out at Prime Sports World. Also want to thank our friends over there at Rouge Bear for sponsoring us here at Prime Sports World. Let your presence be felt. Go check out that spring collection that they've been rocking on their website. Drop the link to that website on our Facebook page, along with the NFL Supreme Facebook page as well. And I am, of course, joined by the always astute Mr. Christian Simpson, who is where right now for the NFL draft?
Yeah, man, I'm out here right now. Man, I did this last year too, went to Cleveland. So, yeah, just staying with it. Cool to be out here. Man, the weather is absolutely perfect.
My man Christian Simpson is in Las Vegas, Nevada, to cover the draft live. Man, that is got like how what is it like right there? I know it's probably pretty hot, but it's kind of cold here in Chicago. So
Look,
congratulations on that.
it's about 75 and sunny.
What is
Yeah,
the atmosphere there right now?
man, it's electric. I mean, look, I remember. Look, this is actually going to be about, I want to say, my 10th or 11th draft that I'm covering. I remember that first one that I actually covered when I was actually there was when I was at Draft Town for the 2015 NFL draft. That atmosphere was just absolutely electric. You know, the young players coming in to fulfill a dream that they've had on their radar since they were about 6 or 7 years old. So, you know, those 2-a-day practices have led to this moment. Just running in, seeing NFL legends and future Hall of Famers. I remember getting a great picture of a now Hall of Fame running back in LaDainian Tomlinson. This was when he worked for I think he still works for the NFL Network, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, he's like literally never on TV. He does still work for them.
Right, right. So yeah, but nah, man, it's fun. It's electric. You know, the atmosphere is just absolutely amazing, and I'm glad I'm here for it.
Yeah, hell yeah. And so yeah, this is gonna be our mock draft of 5.0. And I was telling Christian off air. I don't know if I mentioned this, but this is probably my least favorite mock draft that I've done. Like just the way the board shakes out. I'm just not crazy about like some of the fits for some of the players on certain teams. And I think as you kind of narrow down selections teams, you gotta find it that you like your mock drafts a little less than the ones before. Maybe that's just me personally, because my first mock draft, I was like, yeah, I love this mock draft. And then the ones I've done basically ever since then, I've kind of liked less and less.
Right, right. Yeah, man. You sometimes have those
Yeah.
moments with particular mock drafts. You like one better than you like the other.
Like we'll get into this one in just here in a second here. Uh, but let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into it. We got the first pick on the clock. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock. Their team needs are offensive line, linebacker, defensive tackle, wide receiver, tight end, and safety. Christian, do you have the latest trend following suit when it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars with their first overall pick?
Not on this one. I don't. Look, who did Jacksonville draft last year, David?
Trevor Lawrence.
And when you draft a quarterback, you can go in one of two directions, right? What are those two directions?
I mean, you can either give him some weapons or build an offensive line around him.
Bingo. You just led me to my next point. You can build an offensive line around him. And with the first pick, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Evan Neal. He's a guy you can plug in at that particular moment, and he's going to give you an immediate impact. Look, I like my offensive linemen to have nasty streaks. I'm talking about the guys who are physical. They're just plowing through everything that's in front of them, and that's Evan Neal. And I know you've seen this guy's workout tape. I think I mention it every time I'm on the
It's
show.
quite the workout tape. And I think the great thing about Evan Neal, because I know they just signed Cam Robinson to a 3-year, $4 million extension to get him a franchise tag. But Evan Neal can play basically anywhere on the offensive line. The only place he hasn't played is center. So you essentially could play him at right tackle. You could essentially play him at right guard. You could play him at left guard. He gives you a chess piece. You can move around your offensive line.
Right.
But I do not have the Jacksonville Jaguars going that direction. I think where there's smoke, there's usually fire. I think the Trayvon Walker, even though I don't like it or agree with it, I think Trayvon Walker is going to end up being the first overall pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they're going to fall in love with his combine. They're going to fall in love with his workout tape, and they're going to be like, "Yeah, this is the guy who's going to be the future edge of
Yeah. I
our
don't.
franchise."
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, but I don't
I
think
don't, I
he's
don't even
worthy.
necessarily agree with that. I
I
don't think
don't
he's the
either.
best player in this draft. He might not even be the top 8 or 9 players in this draft. I think there are 3 other edge rushers I'd rather have over him, but the numbers I just combine and just the infatuation, like there's unless Jacksonville's trying to convince a team to trade up that really wants Trayvon Walker, there's got to be a reason. All the
Yeah,
experts now think that he's going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. I think that's going to be the pick.
yeah, definitely. I mean, you already know who I think the best player in this draft is, but we'll get into that further on
I
along
do
on
when
the
I did my big board.
telecast.
I think Kyle Hamilton's the best player in this draft.
Okay. I think you'll like mine too. All right, so I have them taking Evan Neal.
Moving on to pick number 2, we got the Detroit Lions on the clock. Wide receiver, quarterback, offensive guard, linebacker, and defensive tackle. And I have, because he just falls into the laps of the Detroit Lions, the hometown kid gets to stay where his home. Got Aiden Hutchinson going to the Detroit Lions. I think at his very lowest, I think he's going to be a 7 to 8 sack per season edge rusher for the Detroit Lions. I think at his peak, I think he's got J.J. Watt potential for him. Like I just see a lot of J.J. Watt in Aiden Hutchinson. The guy's gonna. I have zero concern that he's at least going to be good in the National Football League.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the Lions take Aiden Hutchinson here. Like you just said, he falls into the laps of the Detroit Lions here. But, I don't see JJ Watt in him. I see a little more of Joey Bosa
Oh, I'll
in
give you
him.
that too. Yeah.
He is a slightly less explosive version of Joey Bosa. And I just love his twitch. And I even remember before the Ohio State game, Aiden Hutchinson was my X factor for Minnesota, for Michigan, for the Michigan Wolverines in that game. And I said, if Ohio State does not double team him or they barricade him or they put some type of bracket coverage or bracket look on him, he's going to disrupt your entire game plan. And look at what happened.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I also think Aiden Hutchinson. A lot of people, their big boards, they have Aiden Hutchinson the best player in this draft. I'm not like if we were to put Aiden Hutchinson in last year's draft, where would he rank among those players? Like I don't know if he'd be in the top 10.
I'll say at least top 15. I don't know about top 10 either.
This is a legitimate, pretty weak draft class, in my opinion. Like
Right.
comparatively speaking.
Right. Now I say top 15.
But yeah, so moving on there, we got the number 3 pick on the Houston Texans on the clock. Their team needs a quarterback, running back, tight end, offensive guard, defensive end, cornerback, and safety. What do you have the Houston Texans doing with the first of their first round picks at number 3 overall?
Well, you have your quarterback, Davis Mills, did a lot better than I think a lot of people anticipated him to perform. Why not protect him? Get him some offensive line help. I have them taking Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. Another one of those chess pieces, like you just described, the guy that you can plug in and he immediately brings an impact. This offensive draft, look, had the privilege of breaking down and looking at a lot of NFL drafts, and this offensive draft is extremely offensive line heavy this year. There's a lot of depth amongst offensive linemen this year.
I don't disagree with you, but I think when it comes to Houston Texans, I think they have holes over there, and they still have Laramie Tunsil still there. I don't know if he's part of the big picture future plans, but they haven't done anything with him yet, so I'm going to assume that he's going to stick around for that team. This is one of the worst defenses in the National Football League, and I give them my big board best player in this draft, Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton's going to be a phenomenal pro. Like I don't think there's a lot of questions about he's going to be good. It's just a matter of how good he's going to be. He has Derwin James talent level written all over.
Right. Not a bad pick. I like that.
It could be it's a little bit early for like a safety, but I just think that Kyle Hamilton is so much better than the next safety on the board. He's also, I think he's for sure the best player in this draft, in my opinion. Moving on to the 4th pick in this year's draft, we got the New York Jets on the clock. Team needs quarterback, running back, tight end, offensive guard, defensive end, cornerback, and safety. And I have the first corner coming off the board. Who do you think I have coming off the board as the first corner?
Probably Sauce.
Sauce Ahmad Gardner, yes, 0 touchdowns allowed in his college career. Repeat after me, 0. I am not concerned about the talent level that he played there at Cincinnati. 0 is still freaking 0. That means you have to show up every single week and put out your best effort. That means he plays hard. Playing hard usually translates pretty well to the National Football League. Sauce Gardner is going to be an excellent corner, and the Jets need a corner in the worst way.
I have the Jets taking defense too, but this is where I have them taking Travion Walker out of Georgia. Now, look, you've heard about a lot of the other stars from that Georgia defense that just came off a national championship. You heard about Big Jordan Davis. You've heard about Kobe Dean. You've heard about Devontae Wyatt. You heard about Lewis Sine and guys like that. But, Trayvon Walker, I thought was the glue that held this Georgia defense together. Just a guy with a quick first step from the interior of the defensive line. And those are the guys that you're seeing more of nowadays. You have Aaron Donald to think of that. Guys being able to create pressure from the interior of your defensive line.
I don't even hate that. I mean, I have Trayvon Walker as number 1 pick. I think at 4 he makes a lot more sense. I don't understand how I know he had his combine numbers were insane, but Raymond Walker coming into the combine was like a fringe first round pick, and now he's jumped up boards all the way to the first round pick. And it's I don't really understand how what people saw all of a sudden because he had great combine numbers. All of a sudden, this guy's going to be the first overall pick. He was like a part time player at Georgia, so it makes me kind of question why, even though they had a lot of talent there. I don't know, man. I know I had him as my first overall pick, and I think he probably will be in the top 5. His rise is kind of head scratching.
Right.
But, moving on to there, we got the 5th pick, and it's your New York Football Giants on the clock, and their team needs are offensive line, tight end, linebacker, edge, quarterback, and wide receiver. Who do you have the Giants taking with their first 2 picks, top 7?
They can do a lot with this pick. I feel they can go in a plethora of different directions, but the Giants haven't really had.
I mean, they can go in a plethora of directions.
They can.
They have holes everywhere.
They can. They really can. I have them going defense here, and this is where I have them getting Kayvon Thibodeau from the University of Oregon. I think this kid is the best player in this draft, David. Cut from the Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware tree. Reminds me equally of a mix of both. Has that switch. He's built like DeMarcus Ware, but it has the skill set of a DeMarcus Ware, but I also see some Von Miller in him as well because he can put hands in the dirt. He can line up as that outside linebacker, and his first step is so quick and so electric, and I think this kid has next in this league. And with Wink Martindale running the defense now for the Giants, he's going to love every second of this.
I don't even disagree with you. I think when I did my big board, Kayvon Thibodeau was my number 2 prospect on my big board. I think the guy is extremely talented. But do I have the Giants taking him at 5? No. I have them going Evan Neal. He just gives them a mobile. He's off your board, so obviously you couldn't take him there at 5.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants get Evan Neal. He gives them a chess piece they don't already have in their offensive line. If they somehow revive Andrew Thomas's career, maybe move him to right tackle, or even if you can consistently play left tackle, you can play Evan Neal at right tackle. You can play Evan Neal at right guard. You can move Evan Neal at left guard. He just gives you versatility on offensive line that the Giants straight up do not have right now. And if you're going to give Daniel Jones a real opportunity at this, you need to boost that offensive line. That's for damn
sure. Right. I like that.
Moving on from the Giants, we got the Carolina Panthers on their clock. Team needs quarterback, offensive line, safety, defensive tackle, and defensive end. I have another offensive lineman coming up the board here. It's not Charles Cross. I actually have to take Ike Ekwonu. This is the best run blocking left tackle coming in, out of college, coming into the pros. And what are the Carolina Panthers probably going to want to do a lot next season? Run the football. I mean, you still have Christian McCaffrey. Ike Ekwonu just makes a lot of sense for Carolina.
If CMC plays.
Yeah, obviously. It's always the $1 million question, right?
Okay. On my board right now, Carolina, I think they have holes everywhere, like you just described the Giants. But more of those holes lean on the offensive side. I have them taking the first quarterback off my board right now. I have them taking Kenny Pickett from Florida. Kenny is, the type of guy that he can move the pocket. He's able to make things happen with his feet. But when you need him to throw from the pocket, he can do just that as well.
That's crazy rich for me. I mean, it's your mock, so you do what you want, because that's what we all do our own. But there's no way I take a quarterback this early. It just seems this is such a pretty weak quarterback class. Like would Teddy Pickett be drafted before Justin Fields last season?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Not
Like would he
not
be before Mac Jones?
hmm. I got to think about that one,
I don't think
man.
that's. I just gotta be straight up honest. I don't think that's cool. I don't think that's close. Would he be picked before Kellen Mond? I'm not so sure.
Nah, he go before Kellen. Yeah, nah. Be respectful.
I think that's closer than it should be. Somebody's gonna be taken in the first round somewhere.
Right.
But yeah, moving on from there, we got your Giants back on the clock. This pick is part of the from Chicago. It's part of the Justin Fields trade. Their team needs is still there on the screen. Offensive line, tight end, linebacker, edge, quarterback, wide receiver. What do you have the Giants doing here with their second of two
Well,
quarterbacks?
I have the Giants finally addressing their offensive line issues because they've had a lot of them. You could blame Daniel Jones for the struggles, but you play as well. That's those five guys up front, and this is where I have them taking Ike Ekwonu out of North Carolina State.
I love that pick. I think the team makes a lot of sense. And you come out with the Giants, you come out of there with a top flight offensive lineman who should be, your right or left tackle of the future. And you come out of there with an edge rusher who should give you 15 to 20 years of 10 plus sacks. That's pretty good use of the draft board, like a pretty good job of managing how to build a good team. And I have, because he's just kind of fallen here at number 7 to the New York Giants, I have the Giants taking Kayvon Thibodeau. I think your
Okay.
number one prospect in this year's draft is spot on. Kayvon Thibodeau falls all the way to 7. I've seen some mock drafts that have him falling out of the top 10, which feels insane to me. Kayvon Thibodeau, Evan Neal is the Giants' haul in their first 7 picks of this year's draft. And for you, Ike Ekwonu and Kayvon Thibodeau, I'm not sure you could draw that up a whole lot better than that for the New York Giants.
Yeah, not a bad pick, man. I like it.
Yeah. It's certainly better than when the computer made their picks yesterday and they had the Giants taking Derek Stingley Jr. and Jameson Williams at 5 and 7. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, when
yeah.
it happened,
When you sent me that, I almost threw my phone, man.
like me and TJ, when it happened live, dude, I was like, holy, what the like, how is this like how is that a realistic like something that actually came out of an outcome? Like, made zero sense whatsoever.
Right.
Moving on from your New York Football Giants, we got the Atlanta Falcons on the clock. Their major team needs quarterback, running back, safety, linebacker, edge, wide receiver, offensive line. You might as well just write everything there when it comes to Atlanta. And one of the needs they have on there is the offensive lineman. I see a lot of people mocking wide receivers to them, but I think because of how deep the wide receiver position is in this draft, like, you can get the kid from Christian Watson, maybe in the second round, is probably going to be still there. You get Sky Moore potentially in the second round, who's still going to be there. You get the kid from Georgia potentially in the second round. I have the Atlanta Falcons trusting their offensive line. I have them taking Charles Cross, the offensive tackle, out of Mississippi State. This dude, on some people big board, they have him in the top 5 as talent wise. I'm not really to put him that high, but he is the 3rd best offensive lineman, and he addresses the major need for the Atlanta Falcons. And if they're going to really give Marcus Mariota a real shot this season, because also Atlanta's going to be picking this early next season, they might have the worst roster in the NFL. If they want to get a quarterback, they can get one.
Yeah, they could. I have them addressing the defensive side. Look, you got Kyle Pitts last year, so that somewhat takes care of your offense. And if you want to add more offensive weapons, you have the draft to do it later on
Yeah,
in
they
later
got a
rounds.
first
Yeah,
round pick, or
but
second
I
round
look
pick.
at look at who the Buccaneers have to face 2 times a year. You got to face Mike Evans. You got to face Chris Godwin when he's healthy, which is a big when and if. You got to face Michael Thomas. I have them taking Sauce Gardner. I think he drops here to Atlanta at 8 and falls into their laps. I love the motor this kid plays with. He can do it all. He can tackle. He's able to come in on corner blitzes. He's a magnetic force around the football. And these are the guys that you can build your defense around.
0 touchdowns allowed.
And look,
his entire
man,
his
look.
entire college career.
You can't be lost when your nickname is Sauce.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I like that pick for Atlanta a lot, actually. I think because of how good AJ Terrell was last season, if you wanted to build a two-headed monster at the cornerback position and kind of rebuild the way this team is built, like build it on the defense on the inside out, like build your defense up and worry about your offense later because your offense is going to be what it is. Like not drafting one piece for this offense is all of a sudden going to turn it all around. Like, but one extra piece on the defense that was actually decent last season could be a big difference for Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if they really want to, I don't know. We'll see. I like that pick a lot, actually, for the Atlanta Falcons. Moving on to the Seattle Seahawks. This pick is from Denver as part of the Russell Wilson trade. Team needs quarterback, offensive tackle, linebacker, cornerback, and defensive tackle. Who do you have Seattle? What do you have Seattle doing here?
I actually have a mock trade here, David.
Yeah?
Mock trade. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers trading up with the Seattle Seahawks here. And Pittsburgh, they're going to get their quarterback for the future. I have them taking Malik Willis out of Liberty. Mike Tomlin has been infatuated with this kid, and he finally gets a chance to groom his quarterback.
And that Pittsburgh Steelers situation is kind of like one of those perfect scenarios because there's no pressure for him to play next season because they have Mitchell Trubisky there. They have Mason Rudolph, right? So he can legit, because he needs to sit a season. He's really not ready to play in the National Football League right now. So you have him sit behind, Mitchell Trubisky. Have him sit behind Mason Rudolph. Like roll the dice to see how the season goes next season. You have Mitchell Trubisky signed for another season after this one. So if Malik Willis still isn't ready to play next season, or you just wait 2 years. It's not the end of the world to have this guy for a couple of years. Like let him learn how to be a pro because let's be real, his last few games at Liberty down the stretch were pretty terrible. When he played against leveled up on competition, he didn't play all that well. People have fallen in love with his arm strength and his mobility, but his play on the field is not particularly good, especially down the stretch.
Very understandable, very true. You said it better than I could.
But I think it makes a lot of sense. I do not have a trade here, but I do think Seattle is one of those prime targets. Like if somebody falls in love with the quarterback, or if let's say one of these offensive linemen or these wide receivers are on the board. Like if you really want to get your wide receiver and you don't want to have to worry about let's say we get to 9, like how my mock draft was played out, no wide receivers been taken. But you got to imagine the planes coming up here. Jets are going to wide receiver. The Commanders are going to wide receiver. The Texans could take one. Ravens could take one. The Eagles, Saints, the Patriots, Packers, Titans. Like all of these teams are going to need a wide receiver probably at some point during this draft. So Seattle, if you're like, hey, you want the guy that you want, know what you want, the exact guy you want, trade up with me, and I will. You'll be able to take whatever wide receiver you want. But they're not making a trade because I couldn't really make one that made sense. I'm going to have them take Derek Stingley Jr., the best corner remaining on my board. I think they need offensive linemen at worst, but there's nobody to reach for here. Derek Stingley Jr. is the guy I'm going to have them take. And I also don't think they should reach for edge at this point. Derek Stingley Jr., when he was his freshman year, he was the best corner. Not close.
I can't disagree with it. It makes sense.
I mean, they've needed cornerback help basically. So
definitely.
Moving on from here, we got pick number 10, New York Jets back on the clock. This pick is from Seattle as part of the Jamal Adams trade. Their team needs a quarterback, running back, tight end, offensive guard, defensive end, cornerback, and safety. And I have them taking the first wide receiver off the board. Who do you think I have them take?
I'll say Drake London.
No. I have them taking Garrett Wilson, wide receiver.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the Ohio State guys.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson's the guy I have them taking here at number 10. I think he just gives them a good compliment with the rest of their. They were obviously really highly involved in the Tyreek Hill sweepstakes. They didn't get that opportunity, so I think they're going to use one of these first round picks on a wide receiver. Garrett Wilson, I think, is the best receiver, the best healthy receiver in this class. He is Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore. That's a pretty good trio of wide receivers. Not to mention Braxton Berrios. It makes it for an excellent slot receiver. Garrett Wilson.
I have the Jets addressing defense again. One thing the Jets have struggled to do since he retired is completely replace Darrelle Revis, and I think they do it here. I have the Jets taking Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU. This kid's made comparisons to some of the greatest that have had the chance to play the cornerback position. I saw one comparison where they compared him to Charles Woods. I'm like, okay, let's not go that far. But, he can hold his own. I remember he was a key piece to that defense when LSU won that national championship a
He
couple
was
of
he,
years ago.
he might have been the best defensive player in the country that year they went to the national championship.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Like that's like he's dealt with injuries and like when you already know like you're going to be like arguably the first or second cornerback taken. You're going to be a first round pick. I don't know, especially since how LSU's seasons have gone the last two seasons. Like they're not competing for national championships. You're gonna really you're gonna get hurt trying to carry an LSU team and put your draft stock in jeopardy. No way. So I mean, we'll see. I think I think he's a great player, like for real, like, really good player. I think the hate on him's gone way. And then from here, we got the Washington Commanders, and I finally updated that logo, even though I hate the name Commanders. I think it's trash. Their team names are quarterback, offensive line, linebacker, safety, corner, and wide receiver. Christian, what do you have the Commanders doing with their first round pick?
They need safety help in the worst way. And I think the best safety in this draft is going to fall right into their laps. Kyle Hamilton. And I have been thinking for the longest, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me a lot. I see some, and I mean some. I see a little Sean Taylor in him.
Yeah.
I don't think he has that motor. I think he's a little bit more sound in his ball skills than Sean Taylor, because Sean Taylor just wanted to run through people left and right. May God rest his soul. But Kyle Hamilton has such a strong nose for the ball. I still remember that interception where he was on the completely opposite hash. And he just covered so much ground to get that interception and keep both feet in bounds at that. That was almost a la Ed Reed a little bit, but I'm not going that far. I think he fits. He fills a major void for the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their current roster. I mean, Kareem Curl and Bobby McCann doesn't really install you with a whole bunch of confidence that these guys can get the safety job done. Um, I would be legitimately shocked if Kyle Hamilton fell all the way to 13 or to 11 to the Washington Commanders. But if the Washington Commanders are on the board and Kyle Hamilton's there, they're going to run up to the board and take him because he would be a steal anywhere past the top 5. That's how good I think.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he's no longer on my board, so the Washington Commanders are unfortunately not going to be able to take him because they would love to. They're going to go wide receiver to give Scary Terry a little bit of more compliment on the outside. I haven't taken Drake London, the wide receiver out of USC.
That's a good pick.
His productivity before he got hurt last season was insane. Through 8 games, he got 88 passes, 1,000 yards, and 7 touchdowns in 8 games. 8. He led all of college football with 19 contested catches. He only played 8 games. I am semi-concerned that he chose not to run at his pro day, and I'm not sure how teams are going to view that. But Drake London, when healthy, he's an excellent wide receiver. Excellent. And he's a good compliment to Scary.
Cut from the Mike Evans cloth.
Yeah. 6'5", 200 whatever pounds. Like, yeah, he's going to be like Mike Evans, like wide receiver. He's going to be super good. If he can stay healthy, obviously.
Right.
From there, we got the Minnesota Vikings on the clock, and their major needs are edge, offensive guard, cornerback, linebacker, wide receiver, and defensive tackle and defensive end. Every mock draft that I've done for the Minnesota Vikings, I've had Derek Stingley Jr. as the pick for them. But unfortunately, his draft stock has rose a little bit since the last couple mock drafts that I've done. He's no longer on the board. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to reach for the kid from Washington whose name is Trent McDuffie. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to reach for Trent McDuffie here at 12. I'm going to have them taking a guy who was kind of flirting with being a top 10 pick, but his momentum's kind of cooled off a little bit here over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I'm taking Jermaine Johnson second, the kid out of Florida State, the edge rusher. Gives them a good compliment to Danielle Hunter, especially if Danielle Hunter is going to be there long term. There seems to be some questions about even next season, what he's going to be doing. So yeah, give me Jermaine Johnson going to the Minnesota Vikings at number 12.
Minnesota, they need help in the secondary. Their secondary gave up big play after big play, deep pass after deep pass down the field, far too much last year. I have them taking Andrew Booth Jr. from Clemson. I think they I think he falls into their laps here at 12.
Okay, I think that's a reach, but it's all good. All right, number 13. Why Booth over like Trent McDuffie? Just curious.
You said what? You were going in and out.
So, like over Trent McDuffie or like even Kyrie Elam or um. So why would you take take
That's
Andrew
the
Booth Jr. over Trent McDuffie?
that's the beauty of a mock, man. You just gotta expect the unexpected.
I guess that's fair. That's fair. Moving on from there, we got the Houston Texans back on the clock. This pick is from Cleveland as part of the Deshaun Watson trade. Their team needs a quarterback, running back, tight end, offensive guard, defensive end, cornerback, and safety. And who do you have the Houston Texans taking here at number 13?
I have them going defense this time. Haven't really had an impactful defensive player since the JJ Watt days, if we're being realistic here. Have them getting the big guy from Georgia, Jordan Davis, the 6'6", 340-pound mammoth defensive tackle from the defending national champions in college football. This guy was a force all year long. You try running on him, he just throw you back 5 yards. That's how dominant he was.
I love that pick actually. I think that's a really good rationale for what he wants to do. But I actually have them going a different direction. I have them taking another player that played in the national championship, but not the one that you picked. I actually have them taking James Williams out of Alabama, wide receiver. When I look at their wide receiving core, outside of Brandon Cooks, which I'm not sure what his long term future is, they need it. They're going to need another wide receiver. That's somebody who's going to have game breaking speed, who can really take the top off the defense. And Houston Texans are in a position where they don't have to rush James Williams back. Like if they want to sit him for an entire season and have him bring him back next year, they can. Getting James Williams, he's probably a top 8 or 9 pick if he doesn't get hurt during that national championship game. To get him at 13, a guy who can potentially be your wide receiver for the next 7 or 8 years, I think would be a steal at 13. And they're in a position where they can win.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with it. Yeah, they could definitely use the offensive weapon on the perimeter.
Yeah. I mean, outside of Brandon Cooks, what else they got?
Absolutely nothing.
Not a lot. Not a lot. And I realize that pick right there is probably going to be super unpopular. But as you say, it's why they call it a mock. I mean, sometimes you roll the dice on some stuff. It doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. It's not the end of the world.
Right.
Moving on to the next pick, you got the Baltimore Ravens on the clock. Offensive line, cornerback, wide receiver, linebacker, edge. That's the tackle are their major needs. And I have them addressing their defensive tackle position. I know they just brought back Calais Campbell, but I think because of Jordan Davis is still here at number 14, I have Baltimore snapping up Jordan Davis. I think he makes a lot of sense in the scheme. He can learn under Calais Campbell. That 1-2 punch could also be really dominant if they played him at the same time. Give me Jordan Davis going to the Baltimore Ravens 14.
Can't go wrong with that, but I know Calais Campbell probably has another year, maybe 2 left.
We signed a 2-year deal, so
he signed a 2-year deal?
Yeah.
Okay. You can maybe turn Calais into a situational pass rusher. You bring him in on third downs. I have the Ravens taking Jermaine Johnson the second here out of Florida State.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. They need edge rusher in the worst way. I mean, they lost Ngakoue. Nobody else they've really brought in really worked out all that much there. Yeah, Jordan. I think that's a great pick, and he's the kind of a steal at 14 because I remember when he was trending like a few weeks ago that he was going to be in the top 10. That seems to have cooled off a little bit. Now Trayvon Walker's kind of taken that role. Yeah, I love him at 14. I think that's really good value. From there, we got the Philadelphia Eagles on the clock with the first of two draft picks here in the 2020-2022. This pick is from part of Miami, part of the Jalen Waddle trade from 2021. Team needs linebacker, corner, safety, edge, wide receiver, offensive line. What do you have the Eagles doing here with their first pick?
I think they need wide receiver help. I have them taking Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State.
Is that your first wide receiver?
This is my first wide receiver.
So this is going to be my fourth wide receiver going to the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm the same way, but they need big time wide receiver help. And I think they need a guy who can complement, what they already have on the roster. Devontae Smith. So I think they take Traylon Burks, the wide receiver out of Arkansas, a little bit bigger of a wide receiver, go up and catch those contested passes. Um, he also make crazy plays when he gets the ball in his hands. I know he didn't test particularly well at the combine, but I'm not particularly concerned because they don't play football in a shirt and shorts. They play football in pads. So I'm not concerned at all about his lackluster combine.
Not a bad pick. I like it.
I mean, all the other wide receivers are already off the board, so I kind of had to pick the one that I like.
I get it.
Moving from there, we got the New Orleans Saints on the clock. This part is part of the trade with Philadelphia as a pre-draft trade. Team needs quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle, tight end, corner, safety, offensive line, and defensive tackle. I have them taking wide receiver to bolster up that wide receiver. And I add another Ohio State wide receiver to hopefully play next to his name is totally escaped, Michael Thomas. I got Chris Olave, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, going to the New Orleans Saints here at 16.
I have the Saints getting some much needed help on that offensive line. I have them taking Trevor Penning out of northern Iowa. You lost Terry Armstead, so you have to find some way to replace him.
I like that pick a lot. I think I had that particular scenario in one of my other mocks. I try to make my mocks a little bit different every time, but yeah, they do need to do something about their offensive line. They let him walk in free agency, all because they didn't have cap space. Like they're gonna have to figure out what they're gonna do at offensive line if James is gonna have any chance of competing in the NFC South.
Yeah.
From there, we got the Los Angeles Chargers on the clock. Their major team needs are defensive tackle, offensive tackle, edge, wide receiver, and tight end. What do you got the Chargers doing here at number 17?
Have them going addressing that offensive line. You have a franchise quarterback now and Justin Herbert, so do all you can to keep him protected. I have them taking the offensive guard Zion Johnson out of Boston College.
We and you are on the same wavelength when it comes to what the Chargers should be doing. I think they've done enough on their defense in the offseason to kind of let that just kind of figure it out in later rounds. They need to figure out this offensive line. And because Trevor Penning is still here, thankfully on my board, that's who I'm taking. You put him next to Rashawn Slater. I think that makes a pretty good left and right tackle when it comes to the Los Angeles Chargers. And if you're going to keep Justin Herbert upright and you want to be competitive in the NFC South or the AFC West, sorry, you're going to need Justin Herbert to have a franchise type.
I agree.
From there, we got the Philadelphia Eagles back on the clock. This pick is from part of New Orleans, part of a pre-draft trade. Their team needs are linebacker, corner, safety, edge, wide receiver, offensive line, and I have them addressing the linebacker. I have them going with Devin Lloyd, the linebacker out of Utah. This dude, I know he didn't test well in the combine, but when you watch plays of tape of Devin Lloyd, he's just everywhere. Like the dude can play all over the linebackers. Play him off the ball, you can play on the ball. He's just a really good linebacker. Devin Lloyd. Go.
Couldn't agree with you anymore. I have the same pick.
Yeah, I like when that happens. To number 19, we got the New Orleans Saints back on the clock. This pick is part of a trade with Philadelphia. It's part of a pre-draft trade. Quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle, tight end, outside linebacker, defensive tackle. And who do you have New Orleans taking with the second?
I have them taking who you had them taking first, Chris Olave. Out of Ohio State, I think he can help bolster up that receiving core. They need to give Jameis Winston a weapon. He wants to push the football down the field, and I think he's the best down the field wide receiver threat in this draft.
I have the New Orleans Saints planning for the future, and because they have traded away draft capital next year, which means they don't have a first-round pick next year. If things go south next year, they will not be in a position to take a quarterback without having to trade a haul to get back into the first round. I'm going to have them address their quarterback situation now. I'm going to have them taking Malik Willis, the quarterback out of Liberty. The great thing about taking him right here is that you do not need to play him this season. You have Jameis Winston. You can let him take the reins, let him play for the entire season. Malik Willis can sit behind and learn how to be a pro, learn how to be, a quarterback of the future. Malik Willis, because he needs 2 years or at least a year sit behind and learn the offense, learn how to because Liberty, it's a small school. He's gonna have to learn how the speed of the game, how it changes playing at a school like Liberty, coming to the National Football League. Malik Willis gets to sit behind Jameis Winston for one season. I think it's a perfect fit. I also think because New Orleans traded away next year's draft capital to get more picks this year, they're going to take a quarterback.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
From there, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock. They got needs. They got offensive line, cornerback, corner, defensive tackle, safety, inside linebacker. And I have them finally finding that Pouncey replacement when I got Tyler Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa. My big board, I had him as the 15th best prospect in this year's draft. Tyler Linderbaum is going to be a Pro Bowl level center for 10, 15 years. And he comes in and becomes the Pouncey replacement that they've been looking for. He retired. Tyler Linderbaum.
This is the Steelers, right?
Yep.
All right, remember, I had that mock trade. So
Oh, yeah,
I have
yeah.
Seattle here at 20.
Seattle.
I think they're going to address that edge rusher problem they have. I have them taking Boyd Mafe out of Minnesota.
Yeah, I think that guy's been flying off draft boards as well. He's got all the prototypical size. He's looking for somebody who's going to be an edge rusher. From there, we got the New England Patriots on the clock. Their team needs quarterback, wide receiver, linebacker, safety, defensive tackle, offensive line. Chris, what do you have Bill Belichick doing here at 21?
Well, what's Bill Belichick's background? He's a defensive guy. You traded away Stephon Gilmore, and unfortunately, you lost J.C. Jackson in the offseason and free agency to the Chargers. I have them taking Trent McDuffie, the corner out of Washington. He's quick. He's athletic. He has long arms. Can do things on that island. I think this would be the perfect fit for him.
Sorry, who was it again? Sorry?
Trent McDuffie.
Trent McDuffie, man, you read my mind. We're on the same wavelength too. I got Trent McDuffie at 21 going into New England Patriots. I'm not at all concerned about his lackluster combine. I'm also not really all that concerned about his teammates' lackluster combine. I just don't have him in the first round. Trent McDuffie's going to be a good pro. And when you trade away Stephon Gilmore and when you lose J.C. Jackson, you need to replace those guys. Trent McDuffie is a good step. And Washington is kind of becoming defensive vacuum. I mean, they've had a corner or a safety drafted in the first round, I think in each of the last 5 drafts.
Right.
Moving on from Green Bay. This pick is in. The pick is from Las Vegas. It's part of the Devontae Adams trade. There's the needs edge, defensive end, offensive line, wide receiver, corner, tight end, defensive tackle. And I have them trying to replace Darius Smith. I have them taking George Karlaftis, the edge out of Purdue. Scouts seem all over the place on this guy. Some scouts absolutely love him and have him in the top 10 on their big board. Some scouts absolutely do not like him and have below their top 20 in their big board. But I think the intangibles are there. I think the size is there. And if you watch Purdue games, George Karlaftis really jumped off on the page.
All right, this is the Packers. You already know where I'm going with this one. They need wide receiver help because there's nobody on that wide receiver depth chart that scares me. I think this is where the Packers go and they get their version of Justin Jefferson and their version of Jamar Chase. I have them taking Drake London out of USC. 6'5", gives Aaron Rodgers that weapon down the field. Rodgers wants to stretch the field. Why not get a guy that can get up the field vertically, that can complement your skill set?
As a Bears fan, I would hate that. But if I was a Packer fan, I would be dancing in the rain because we got a steal. Drake London could go in the top 10. You can get him at 22. That's a steal. If that's the way it goes.
Right.
That's a really smart pick. And it feels crazy.
Exactly.
From there, Arizona Cardinals moving into the NFC West. You got the Arizona Cardinals on the clock. Quarterback, offensive line, tight end, tackle, and wide receiver. Who do you have Arizona taking? Yeah.
I have them taking George Karlaftis out of Purdue.
Yeah, I love that because you got to find that Chandler Jones replacement.
Bingo.
George Karlaftis is probably the best edge rusher left on either of our boards. He's gone on mine, but on your big board, he's probably the best edge rusher left. I have Arizona going in a different direction. I have them addressing their offensive line. Who do you think I have them taking?
That you have taken who you have Arizona taking?
Yeah, I have them addressing offensive line. Who do you think the pick is?
Okay, I'm thinking.
It was real quick. Okay, so Trevor Penning, Kyle Linderbaum, and obviously the three obvious tackles are all off my board.
Kenyon Green.
And it's somebody that already's off your board.
I said Kenyon Green. That wasn't him. It wasn't it.
It's not Kenyon Green. It's Zion Johnson, guard out of Boston.
Okay, that's not a bad pick.
Yeah, the guy just starts in either guard position for Arizona. It's a major need. And if you're going to try to win Kyler Murray, the size that he is, you're going to have to keep him protected. Keep throwing chips at the offensive lineman. Moving on to the Dallas Cowboys at number 24. Major needs: defensive tackle, edge, offensive guard, safety, tight end, and linebacker. I also have them taking another offensive lineman, and it's the guy you just mentioned, Kenyon Green. He can play anywhere on the offensive line for real. He basically did at Texas A&M, but I think he plays guard when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. They lost basically everybody on their right side, so he could play some right tackle if they absolutely need him to. Kenyon Green going to Dallas Cowboys.
Couldn't agree anymore because that's who I have Dallas taking.
Yeah, he gets to stay in Texas, and he just gives them some really nice versatility on the offensive line. He literally played at Texas A&M. I think he played everywhere on their offensive line besides center. So,
yep, couldn't agree anymore.
Moving on from there, we got the Buffalo Bills on the clock. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, and their team needs a corner, defensive end, offensive guard, linebacker, defensive tackle, running back, and wide receiver. Who do you have Buffalo taking with their first round pick at number 25?
I have them taking Kyer Elam out of Florida. They need to address that secondary. They need another guy that can play in the back end alongside Tre'Davious White.
Couldn't agree with you more. I just have them taking a different guy. It's somebody who's already way off your board. I got them taking Andrew Booth Jr., the cornerback out of Clemson. He's got the prototypical size to be a really good corner. He just doesn't have to catch the bulk in the National Football League. But yeah, he's got crazy athleticism. He got burnt a lot more in college, but I think that you would have liked in a first round corner. But you got to factor in the fact that Clemson was on the football field a lot, especially last season, where their offense wasn't exactly clicking. So Andrew, that's the way it goes sometimes. Andrew Booth Jr. is going to be a good player. He's crazy athleticism. He has all the intangibles, all the size. And the Buffalo Bills desperately need to replace Levi Wallace, who left.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick, man.
I actually like Andrew Booth Jr. a lot. I don't necessarily love him at 12, but at 25, I think he's good value there.
Right.
Moving on from there, you got the Houston Texans on the clock. Their major needs are quarterback, wide receiver, linebacker, edge, offensive linebacker, tight end. You could even make the argument quarterback. Tennessee Titans. I'm going to have them taking Bernard Raymond, the offensive tackle out of Central Michigan. His story is pretty interesting. Probably the oldest player to be drafted this year. I think he's already like 24 and a half. But 2 years ago, he was a tight end in college, and now he's an offensive tackle.
Wow, interesting. I didn't know he was a tight end.
Yeah, he played tight end too.
That's interesting.
And now, yeah, he's a giant offensive tackle.
This was an interesting pick for me because Tennessee, first I was thinking defense, then I was thinking offensive line, but I think they need help. They need a guy that can complement AJ Green. I mean, not AJ Green, AJ Brown. I haven't taken Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. He's a bigger version of Deebo Samuel. They pretty much have the same skill set. They can both run the ball. He can catch the ball in space, and he's a downfield threat. I think he's a better downfield threat than Deebo is.
It'll be a crazy draft day trade. Like instead of Tennessee drafting the Deebo Samuel light guy, or they just trade this pick for Deebo
Samuel? Right.
And can you imagine AJ Brown and Deebo Samuel on the same team? That would be. That would be.
Yeah,
I love that pick for Tennessee. He's long gone in my draft, but that would be such a good tandem of wide receivers, especially since you basically lost everybody else outside of trading for Robert Woods. Yeah, I love that. I think that's real smart. Tampa Bay on the clock. offensive linebacker, center, defensive tackle, wide receiver, corner, defensive end, running back. You can make the argument, quarterback, maybe Tampa Bay. I mean, terrific Tom isn't going to play for the rest of his life. Who do you have Tampa Bay taking here at 27?
Have them addressing that defensive line. I think they need it in the worst way possible. Have them taking Devontae Wyatt from the University of Georgia.
Me and you, my friend, are on the same wavelength. They haven't re-signed Adama Sue. They also haven't re-signed Jason Pierre-Paul. Peter Pierre-Paul might retire. Devontae Wyatt is who I have been taking at 27. He basically can play either defensive end or defensive tackle in the National Football League. Probably more of a tackle than an edge, but he does address a major need.
Yeah.
He's a good player. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. From there, the Green Bay Packers are back on the clock. Team needs edge, defensive end, offensive lineman, wide receiver, corner, tight end, defensive tackle. And I have the Green Bay Packers taking Kenny Pickett, quarterback out of Pittsburgh. I'm totally kidding. I did not have that. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if that happened?
Yep.
No, I have to take Jahan Dotson, the wide receiver out of Penn State. He's basically the best wide receiver still on my board. I think Dotson has all the intangibles to be a top flight wide receiver. And he's one of those guys that Green Bay should can stretch the field. I think give him some better quarterback play than what he had at Penn State last year. Look for him to put up some big
numbers. I have Green Bay addressing their edge rushing issue. You lost one of the Smith brothers. Have them taking Nakobe Dean here from Georgia. I have two Georgia guys going back to back here.
I feel like that could be like a possibility where Georgia guys just go back to back, like in this draft. Like, because there's so many talented Georgia players that are projected to be first rounds. Like Quay Walker could find his way into the first round. Was it Louis Cian could end up being a first round pick? Like, we could before this is all said and done, we could see like 10 players from Georgia all drafted in the first round. George Pickens could really be a first round pick. Like, fun.
Possible.
229, we got the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock. This pick is from Miami, part of the Tyreek Hill trade. Team needs corner, wide receiver, edge, linebacker, defensive tackle, and safety. What do you have Kansas City doing with the first of two first-round picks back-to-back?
Christian Watson, the wide receiver from North Dakota State. I think this is a weapon that the Chiefs need. He's about 6'4", great breakaway speed, goes up for the football, almost like he's playing basketball. He can box out and just position himself to make the best possible play upon the football.
I have them dressing wide receiver with their next pick. With this pick, I have them taking Dax Hill. I guess he's going to play corner in the National Football League. He was a safety in college, but they're converting him to corner to play in the National Football League. But they lost Darius Ward, so corner becomes a major need for this team, especially secondary. I got Dax Hill corner on the top. Going to Kansas City. And then at 30, I have the Kansas City Chiefs addressing their wide receiver position, but I do not have them taking the guy that you mentioned. I had them taking Sky Moore, the wide receiver out of Central Michigan. I just think that he has the intangibles you're looking for when it comes to wide receiver. He's quick. He's got the elusive speed. He's got breakaway speed.
I have them taking Kyler Gordon, the defensive back out of Washington.
The other corner from Washington.
Right, the other corner, right, because you lost Charvarius Ward. He was your best cover cornerback. Don't necessarily trust L'Jarius Sneed. I think Kyler would be good here.
I like him a lot. I think he has some real potential to sneak into the first round. There are like major concerns about like how uninspiring his 40 time was, and like basically his entire performance at the combine. Like kind of like people kind of sour on him, but you watch his tape, man. He can really play. And people put way too much value in combine stuff. From there, we got the Cincinnati Bengals on the clock, and their team needs a cornerback, offensive line, safety, linebacker, tight end. We have Cincinnati taken here at number 31.
Offensive line. I don't even have to hesitate. Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa.
And I love that pick, and that team and pick combination is spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tyler Linderbaum is going to be a 10-year Pro Bowl. That's how good I think he's going to be. Like, he's one of the safest picks in this entire draft. Unfortunately for me, he's not here. And I think Cincinnati's done enough in the offseason where I think they can actually not go offensive line, at least in first round and address maybe another area of need, maybe a future area of need when it comes to David Ojabo. He gives. I know they have Trey Hendrickson there. I know they have some edge rushers, but David Ojabo was going to be a top 10 pick. He hadn't got hurt during his pro day. The great thing about taking him in the back end of the first round is that you get the 5th year. So you get to have 5 years of control over this guy. So maybe the first year is kind of a wash. He doesn't play much in the first year. Maybe he comes back like towards the back end of the playoffs, maybe like towards the end of the season. But like you're going to get a guy who would have been a top 10 pick at 31, and you're going to have 5 years to control his future. That's good board manipulation because they don't have a ton of glaring holes outside of obviously.
Right.
What do you think? You like that rationale?
Yeah, I do. No, I like that rationale a lot, especially with the way that you put it.
Thank you. And then the final pick of the first round, we got the Detroit Lions on the clock. This pick is from the Los Angeles Rams as part of the 2021 Matthew Stafford trade. Team needs wide receiver, quarterback, offensive guard, linebacker, defensive tackle. And I have the final pick of the first round being another Georgia Bulldog, and it's going to be Nakobe Dean, linebacker out of Georgia. I think he just gives them a lot of versatility when it comes to the defensive side of the football. Play him at Mike linebacker. You can play him on either. You can play him interior. You can play him on the outside. He gives you value on your defensive side that you don't currently have. I think this is a really high possibility of a trade scenario where a team will trade back up to get a quarterback here because I only have one going in my first round. So I could see a scenario. I actually tried to make a mock trade with Carolina Panthers, and then I looked at their draft capital, and there's just no way they can make a trade to get back into the first round. They after that pick, they have it 7 or 8, whatever it is. They don't have a pick until the 4th round.
Wow.
Like because they traded away a bunch of capital for Sam Darnold. Like this is like I tried to make a trade work for Carolina, I couldn't. So unless they're willing to give up future draft capital like next season to get back up into the first round.
Wow. Yeah. All right. To wrap up the first round, have them taking Daxton Hill, a safety from Michigan.
I do think he's going to play corner.
I can see that.
I think that's what they wanted. I think they wanted to play corner because every like scouting thing that I've looked at has, but he played safety at college.
Yeah.
So I don't know what is behind this change, but just one of those things. But I still think it's a great pick because the Detroit Lions need mega help in the secondary, and I think you've provided them with that pick for sure. But what do you have Detroit doing with the second overall pick? You haven't taken Hutchinson too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they get 2 Michigan guys.
They get 2 Michigan guys.
That's good stuff right there. Yeah. As we mentioned at the top of this show, I don't necessarily love this mock draft. Like my wide receivers came off the board like stupid early, and then kind of like messed up because I want Philadelphia to take a wide receiver, but they feel like they have to reach to get their stuff. I don't know. I just don't like this mock as much as some of the other ones. But this might be the one that's correct, so I guess we'll find out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but we're gonna be back here tomorrow. We're gonna be live for the entire first round of the National Football League, for the entire draft, breaking down every pick as it happens live. So that'll be happening on Twitter, Facebook, and on YouTube. That Twitter handle is PSW_David and Christian. I'm sure you're gonna be dropping some new stuff on your website. You wanna delve me with a shameless plug real quick?
Definitely, man. Check out.
What can we look forward to on your website over the next 24 hours?
Well, I know I'm about to post the most recent episode of Monday Evening Quarterback that I recorded on Monday. So be on the lookout for that. And then tomorrow, about an hour before the draft, I will be releasing my final mock. I can't wait.
So yeah, if you go to the dailyblitz.blog, check out Christian Simpson's content. Be live looking forward to a Monday Evening Quarterback, and he's going to drop his new mock draft an hour before the actual draft begins. I've done my final mock draft. I did 5 this year. That is the most mock drafts I've ever done in a draft cycle. I've got to tell you, I'm a little tired in first round. But I cannot wait for tomorrow, and I cannot wait for the draft to be here. We're going to be breaking down every pick as it happens live. And then Friday, we're going to give grades on the first round entirety on Friday afternoon. So don't miss that content. Prime Sports Wolves is going to be bringing it to you. We're going to be bringing you guys consistent content. We go live like a ton. So, Christian, What do we do here at the Prom, my friends?
We bring the heat, and we might even send your ass to grandma's house.
Yes, sir. We're gonna bring the heat and send your ass to grandma's house. It's a two-pronged attack here at Prime Sports World. We'll see you guys all tomorrow. Christian, man, be safe there in Las Vegas, man. Have a lot of fun, man. You deserve it.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Peace out.
sir.